Welcome everyone to Voice of Terminus show number 39. Today you're stuck with Laurel and Hardy. Kodiak cannot be here with us today. You can decide who's Laurel and which one of us is going to be the Hardy guy. Today's show is about Ogres, and say hello, Lex.
Hi.
So let's go and kick this off, and we'll quickly read the short description of the Ogres. Once a unified and victorious host, the Ogres require a new breed of warriors to restore their heritage of militant glory. So I'm going to go and start reading off the lore, and we'll start with the Ogres again. With their Hulk King presence and a culture that values the brutal skills of battle above refinements or leisure, the Ogres of Broken Moor are perilously dismissed as primitive by the uninformed. Yet careful study would reveal a race that relishes the dance of warfare tactics and in whom resides an unmatched respect for valor and courage, whether friend or foe. When calm, Ogres are cautious and considerate before action, and seek their emotions, and their incomparable size wreaks unpredictable ends. So just by listening to that, for me personally, obviously they're, battle-wise, but they also seem to have a very high intelligence compared to how we normally engage Ogres or view them as just large brutes. So, what's your take after hearing that first passage, Lex?
Honestly, I'm really excited about Ogres. I mean, if I had to score my beloved Scar numerically, they'd be like 98, and Ogre would be a 97. It's this whole twist where it's, yes, they look primitive, they look like dumb brutes, but where they get you is the fact that you underestimate their intelligence.
Yeah.
So it almost comes off like they look primitive because they don't need any advanced weaponry or equipment. They'll get you by outsmarting you in battle, and right there is like, whoa, hold on a minute. I need to rethink this.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting as well, basically, that they have a respect, obviously, for valor and courage, regardless if you're a friend or a foe. So, so they do, that's a level of intellect right there, that they'll view their enemies with the same caution, respect, valor, etc., as they do their friends. So they're thinking, always thinking about, you could be a very cautious enemy to us, and they'll basically, the way I see it is they're always constantly thinking, watching out what you're doing, and they're paying close attention.
Yeah, it almost seems like even if you were celebrating a victory, they would still have that situational awareness just built into them of who is around me, who is behind me. Can I trust that person? If not, turn so that they can't stab me in the back. Always thinking, always trying to get the upper hand tactically. But that's, in my opinion, amazing, because Ogres, you think big dumb brutes, just swinging a big club.
Yeah.
The fact that you're going to give them a tactical mind makes me sit there and go, you know what? I want to know more. And be it that I'm a tank by trade. This whole almost sense of valor and nobility, or at least battle nobility, screams to how I want to play.
I mean, if you think about it, tanks in general, if you think about tanks in general, a tank has to be a smart person or a smart being. He's the guy out front, leading the groups or the raid or people forward. He's the first one to march into danger, so he has to have an awareness, and you know, people always see tanks as, you know,
meat shields,
can openers, meat shields, stuff like that, and you know, it's actually the other way around. They should have an intellect, and you know, these guys are definitely, when it comes to warfare, one of the most smartest and dangerous races, as it's in their blood. So we'll carry on with their tale. We'll carry on with that. So basically, Gorok, a world of glacial ranges, magma flows, expansive mountain plateaus, and cave jungles, where the very insects were said to grow to the size of a Terminus halfling. On the continent of Suro dwelt the 7 clans of the Ogre race, coexisting only by forced observance of sacred borders. These boundaries were handed down by the deities of the Gravenhold. Along with the cryptic 7 tombs of war, one bestowed to each clan, the tombs leveraged a promise of unrivaled power against a warning of permanent defeat. Only by 7 native hands will their seals be opened. Only under 7 native eyes will their words be understood. Only in peace will you thrive in your war. Lose only one and none will endure. And that's from the invocation of the Sevens. So they on their homeworld there were 7 clans, and they seem to have been given tombs of war to kind of protect each clan against each other.
That little invocation of the 7, it almost makes me seem like it's an attempt to keep the ogre tribes together. Basically saying, together, you guys are, you know, peaceful together, nothing can stop you. But the minute you lose one of those clans, you know, one turns on another or what have you, you're all going to just, you know, fall like dominoes.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. Do you want to carry on?
Yeah. The Graven Hold hid the bulk of the tomb's knowledge within an indecipherable labyrinth of runes, until a time when the volumes would be shared amongst the 7 clans equally. If even one tome was destroyed, the Pantheon would permit the ogres be wiped from the face of Gorok. However, there was no mandate that they would be used. Thus, within their territories, each militant clan thrived to the extent they respected those limits. The vast wisdom of the tomes remained untapped, for no clan lord would dare share his birthright with another. Each clan handled their tome in their own manner. Bloodmare commissioned a hereditary order of mages to decipher the runes apart from collecting them all. Way of Astur kept theirs suspended over a pool of magma beneath their mountain fortress, chained to 6 blind warriors spread out about the cauldron, illuminated only by the molten rocks. If they perished, so did the tome. An effective, if perilous, tactic that illustrated only by the tactic that illustrated the ogre's mindset in battle. My foe dies, or we both do. The smallest clan of the 7, Black Moon, memorized a few legible runes from childhood, relying on them for survival more than any other. But from prosperity to poverty, circumstances only masked an instinct that welled up in each clan, rising from the soul of every ogre, male or female, dominance by right of conquest. And there exists no proving measure for an ogre greater than defeating another ogre. I believe the 7 tomes were given to keep us from destroying ourselves. Though the Gravenhold did not say this with words, I have studied for long days and nights, even from forbidden copies of other tomes. Chained to the same stake as my father and his, it is all a lie, I fear. Maybe there is power in the tomes, maybe there is not. We will never know. And that was always their purpose. From Durkos, the disciple of the Bloodmare.
That's definitely interesting. You know, it's what stands out is basically how they approach their battles, their mind, you know, the ogre mindset. Either my foe dies or we both do. So it's kind of a sacrifice. A religious is the wrong word, but it's almost like if I can't defeat my enemy, then my clan cannot respect me, and therefore we both should die. Kind of attitude.
It almost seems like victory at any cost.
Yep.
They're so religious in battle itself that should they lose to a superior enemy or get to the point where they understand they're losing to a superior enemy, they will throw themselves hazardously forward just to make sure that both of them die. And that to me also appeals to my tanking.
So you have like 7 tombs that were spread out for the 7 clans or clan lords would, you know, get these tombs basically. Like you said earlier on, you know, it's to keep them from destroying themselves, and you know, that Drukos the disciple from the Bloodmere also had that same feeling as you pointed out. It's almost like it's something to stop them from killing each other, because they do have a dominant right of conquest, and you know, their biggest honor or greatest measure is defeating another ogre, you know, fighting ogre on ogre. And to stop them from doing that, these tombs were basically given out so that this would not happen. Is that what's your take?
It certainly seems like because of their warfare-centric culture, they believe themselves to be the ultimate fighter, in a way. So, in their eyes, the only thing that can actually prove that they are not the best is by defeating another ogre, who by birthright is the strongest force on Terminus. I'm super just giddy about the whole where they say, where is it here? The Bloodmere commissioned a hereditary order of mages.
That's another interesting point, because there's, you know, people have been discussing it in chat as well. You know, the possible classes for the ogre, and you know, would arcane fit into the ogre style, into the ogre life, etc. And to be honest with you, I can't see why not. Why can't there be a mage ogre or a wizard ogre and everything? They're definitely of intellect. They're definitely intelligent. So I could see that happening, that they would have arcane classes. It's part of you know, the battle as well, you know, warfare.
An ogre mage to me almost seems like an ogre who wouldn't be afraid to go toe to toe with somebody. You know, just because I can wield magic doesn't mean I'm not going to smack you in the head with my staff. You know, so I can definitely see it, because if we go by typical what we would possibly expect in terms of racials, again, pure speculation here. We'll say that ogres, by benefit of racial traits, are better at melee, okay? But they can be mages. So technically, wouldn't that facilitate having a almost battle mage? You know, they don't have the large mana pool to draw from. Maybe their int is a little lower than normal, but they can support the battle through melee a little bit. I mean, really, we just don't know, but it would be a very interesting twist on things.
I mean, Glenn also said, you know, he mentioned in chat that them being formidable necromancers. I could also see the ogre having that class, necromancer, and definitely see it as a huge threat. You know, when I look at the ogre, I've always I've always pictured them as being smart, intelligent, brute, strong beings. And if you think about it, if you look at just to compare, if you look at the orcs in World of Warcraft or in Warcraft in general, they had, you know, shamans and mages and it fits 100%. Why not? Why can't they have that? What basically says that the ogre would not be able to harness the arcane magics?
Right. So for those of you that came from EverQuest original, ogres were your typical big dumb brutes, you know, which kind of got us all into that mindset. But there, if you look at the lore, there's actually a reason. They were cursed by the gods to have reduced intelligence because they were so strong in their militant ways that they challenged the gods. They attacked another plane of a god or a realm of a god. So they were cursed. That's why they're just big dumb brutes, so that they could never get that advanced again. Here it's like they kind of go about the same way as the ogres were in EverQuest 1 with their lore. Like, they're so tactically advanced that you may think they're big dumb brutes, so you're going to use your finesse and your intelligence to outdo them, but then all of a sudden you jump out, try to ambush him, and then he ambushes you.
Yep. So let's go and carry on with the lore. When cast upon the naked land of Terminus, the frail bonds between the clans ruptured in haste. After eons of forced restraint, total war arrived. This scale of this conflict would have consumed the race, had not a dark messiah risen from the chaos. Rothok, clan lord of the Black Moon tribe, took his tribe to a mountain ridge far to the south, claiming it called his name. Into this haunt he trekked alone, with the tomb of the Black Moon, whispering that the secrets of the runes could be opened therein. Missing for weeks as the red ogres of Dark Sun assaulted the last of his men, Rothok emerged from the mist and shadows forever changed. Clouds of dust filled the air. Down the great bow of the haunted lands the Dark Sun ran. Numbers very great, we would bring them into our death. Then I heard Rothok's below. Like a mountain when it breathes fire, the warriors of Dark Sun stopped and looked to the skies, but he was already in front of them. I still cannot say what I saw, but the wall of the bow was covered in their blood. Their corpses are still frozen in the crust of the earth, none survived. Krogard, Black Moon Lieutenant. So there's quite a lot of room between what you've just read and them coming on to Terminus. There's no real explanation why they came to be on Terminus. There's no real background behind why they left. Did they have to leave their planet? Were they summoned to Terminus, etc.? So there's plenty of room for people to speculate on, and plenty of room for VR to further out this portion of the lore. The interesting thing is, it seems like the Black Moon tribe, being the smallest out of the 7, seems to have been the strongest. And what kind of makes this point for me interesting to speculate on, this is pure speculation, but I'd like to think that this might be possible. Could it be possible that Terminus does reveal or have the power to reveal the secrets of these tombs? Could that possibly be that the Ogre now have the opportunity to unlock the tomb's hidden secrets?
It would certainly say that. What interests me about that part of the lore here is the Dark Messiah.
Who's that?
Basically the guy who's the Black Moon guy who rules everything now. Where it says, this scale of conflict would have consumed the race had not a Dark Messiah risen.
Yep.
So does that mean he's a good guy? Does that mean he's a bad guy? What? It says that he it almost hints at he's unlocked the secrets of the tome
Yeah.
for the Black Moon, which gave him powers to basically defeat armies.
Yep.
How much is, myth and legend versus actual fact? We don't know. But is this possibly a different story arc that we're going to see? Is it maybe something we'll see in an expansion? Maybe, it's like the Horde. A bad guy takes over the Horde, so now we have to free the Horde,
Yeah.
from the Dark Messiah. Or maybe he's actually a good guy. We don't know.
It gets really interesting, actually, right now. Do you want to carry on reading on it? And get into the interesting stuff for us to carry on?
Yep. With the powers of an unlocked tome, Rothok declared himself the Black Moon King, making an unprecedented claim as lord over all 7 clans. In a ruthless campaign, he validated this title, slaying the 6 rival clan lords with his own hand. All opposition collapsed beneath the surging tide of the Black Moon, each tome taken in turn. In victorious froth, the king desecrated a sacred shrine of ancient Terminus, an ominous statue of a departed, rainborn dragon. This monolith stood as a reminder of the latent authority on the planet, that of the bloodline of the Dragon King himself. Yet in one fearless stroke, the Black Moon King tore off the beast's jaw, casting the Hulk at his feet, breaking its maw. In a display of gross mockery, the king set his throne inside the mouth of the disfigured regent. From that seat, he unleashed the unifying Ogre host upon their continent of Rainfall. Though this ravenous eye cast out across the whole of the world, yet this era of conquest was not to endure. The king was increasingly afflicted by the very powers he used to terrorize his foes. With muttering throat and eyes that never closed to sleep, observers believe the dark curse of the breached tomes wreaked a great claim upon the king with each victory. When the ceaseless whispers wreaked too great a madness upon him, the undefeated king agitated his throne and vanished. I heard his bellow the last time. He was in great pain. I ran to look, but the king was gone. He took the tomes with him. We were like islands behind a giant ship, lost. All we gained on this planet, lost. Our king, lost. Rothok, my old friend in battle, lost to the sands. Krogod, general of Broken Maw.
You see, this is really, really interesting. Basically, he went out, destroyed all the other clan lords, killed all his opposition, and basically made the Ogre become one clan, more or less. And he even disrespected the dragon kind, the rainbow dragon, which is kind of brutal. It shows you that the Ogre, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, they couldn't care less. They have no respect for you. They will beat you down and, destroy you. But on the same note, though, he kind of went crazy by the looks of it. So, it says, when the ceaseless whispers wreaked too great a madness upon him, the undefeated king abdicated his throne and vanished. So
it's almost like he went mad.
He went absolutely mad. Is that from the tombs itself? Is that from the,
What it says to me is that the ogres were meant to have 7 rulers. If any one ogre had all the power of the tomes, the power would basically drive them bat crap crazy. So maybe that's kind of your punishment for going against what their gods wanted, or kind of thing, where it's like, we wanted 7 rulers, we wanted the power spread out, we wanted no one to control all ogres, kind of thing. Because here it's like, those of you who are familiar with EverQuest lore, and I'm going back there because that's the one I know the most. The Ixar lore was fascinating, where they basically took on the dragons head on and almost won.
Mm.
That's kind of what it's hinting at to me. Like, they come to this planet, they're basically pushing everyone else out of their way, barely breaking a sweat. They disrespect the dragons. It almost seems like maybe the dragons would come in and be like, "You want to go? Let's go."
It's definitely interesting, because how do the dragonkind, view the ogres now? What possible outcomes could happen in the frail age? For all those out there, the ogres were actually one of the first races to be brought to Terminus. They came in, I'll tell you right now, give me a second. The ogres came in at the Age of Seclusion, along with the elves and the dwarves, way before the humans, the Darkmere, the Achai came in, and they are part of the Sacred Six, as it's called, for Terminus. And we were kind of talking about this Sacred Six before we went on stream. Like, were these 6 races actually picked out? And they're called the Sacred Six because, they were the first 6, and are they being looked at or looked over by the dragonkind or whoever brought them there? That's a bit of backwards information for you on the ogre. On top of that, so they've been around for a very long time. And another interesting thing as well is Krogard, who was once a lieutenant in the Black Moon, became the general of the Broken Moor. Now, it'll be interesting to see if this guy is still around.
Maybe he takes over.
Yep.
So it was like right there, that makes me believe that maybe a story arc for ogres is to try and find those tomes. Find out what happened to the king.
Yep. Let's go and finish it off, and then we'll get into all the good stuff. Leaderless, the ogres were unable to hold onto their blood-soaked gains. Against defeats, rivalry, and betrayal, their fabled instincts seem to have fled with their king and his books. When the revenant forces fell upon Broken Moor, the reeling nation sought shelter in the Ashen Sanctum. Themselves devastated like any common race, in this current frail age the ogres are pitched in battle again. Their bitter rivalry with the hounds of Wash-Chi smoulders afresh, requiring warriors born of the race's native ferocity. Leaders who can unify the fractured host, yet beneath those aims burns the reclamation of the tombs of war, a birthright stolen by their own native hand. Let that sink in.
Yes, I would say I don't recall much about the Revenant, but let's think about this. This Revenant force pushed back a unified, although leaderless, ogre host. Even unorganized, these ogres sound pretty badass, So this Revenant force is going to be something that is probably going to be our primary enemy, I'm guessing. And I would like to know more. I kind of got that Starship Troopers little ad scene going in my head. Would you like to know more? Yes, I would.
Glenn asks, if only 6 races are chosen and there are 9 playable races, which 3 weren't chosen? Like I said, it's pure speculation if they were chosen or not. It's just an idea we have. But the final 3 races that came about that had nothing to do with the 6 are the halflings, the Scar, and the gnomes. Those are the 3 that aren't part of the Sacred 6, as it's called in the lore. So.
Yeah, and I think Scars were a cursed race. The gnomes don't even have bodies. So it kind of makes sense to me that they're not one of the Sacred 6. But that whole labeling as sacred, that makes me think, why are they sacred?
Yeah.
You know, what's so important that makes these sacred? I mean, what's going to happen if one of them should disappear? What should happen if maybe one steps out of line?
Yeah. It's, it's definitely, you need to definitely read up on it. Read up on the ages. There's a lot of hints and information there. We will be getting to those as well. But let's get on to the ogres. So now we've read the lore. I definitely would love to know what happened, why they came to Terminus, or if they were summoned. Because there's really nothing really revealing. Why they came here, why they came to Terminus, or why they were brought to Terminus, etc. Obviously, these tombs were a threat to them. If one should go crazy and try and use its power, or if the tomb gets lost, they would be destroyed. Was this a way? Did the clans meet up secretly, the clan leaders, and say, "Hey, let's find another planet or another place for us to be and be rid of these bonds that we're in with the tombs"? Similar to what the halflings did. Played tricks to try and break the bonds that they had, that kind of kept them in line, because they obviously like fighting against each other as well. It's one of their greatest honours to be killed by another ogre, or to fight another ogre. And maybe that's something that they did. They tried to find a way, or maybe this king manipulated the other 6.
Maybe.
There's so much room, and I'd definitely like to hear how they bring it together. So let's get into it. We kind of talked about the ogre in a general discussion on how we would picture their city, their town, their main town to be like, what kind of materials they would use. Should we go and recap on that? What we would think their buildings and structures would look like?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to be primitive on the face of it all. So maybe you just got like stone huts with some logs for the roof or something. Very simple, very Spartan, I guess you could say, where the Greek Spartans, they lived with very little if they are of the warrior caste. Maybe these guys are the same thing, where they live, eat, and breathe fighting. So they don't need a super comfortable bed, because when they're sleeping, they're not training or they're not fighting. They don't need, fancy decorations around their home, because it serves no real purpose. One thing that just kind of popped in my head when thinking over that lore was, one reason that these 6 races could be sacred was maybe they were brought here to fight the Revenant forces.
Ooh. Interesting thought.
It's just like...
Yep. Boom. There we go.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we're going to see very, very primitive, probably like we see on the picture of the ogre over there. It's going to be very simple, probably leather-bound logs, maybe stones, probably with some bones to like kind of show off their trophies of their kills. But it's going to be very deceiving. If you were a human, you walk into the ogre's town or towns or whatever, it's going to look very primitive, very just, wow, these guys aren't very smart. Unless you think about it. I mean, they're warriors at heart. They don't need decoration. They don't need fancy buildings. Maybe they're almost nomadic. Maybe they just set up camps and they fight and then they move on. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see. I'm personally a fan of that primitive style. Like we see that the picture of the ogre. He's got some crazy kind of skull as a belt buckle. He's got another skull as a shoulder pad. I love that style. I love it. It's just my style. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, having animal skulls, as belt buckles or shoulder pads, it makes sense. It fits the ogre, and that shows intelligence though as well. That's not something a dumb brute would do.
Right.
I picture them using huge bricks with ornate glyphs inside the bricks as well. I could see them having a huge military barracks. I would see them using wooden fences as barricades. They're not afraid to, let their enemy in. Come at us, right. We'll take you on. But it does mention that they actually fled into the Ashen Sanctum as well. So would they be inside, would they go underground? Would they go into a mountaintop? I mean, in the original, on their original planet, it says as well,
one clan was
mountain plateaus and cave jungles. So it's, the question is, would they actually go into areas like that as well? I could see certain areas where they would use that for, let's call the magic, the mages and stuff, would be inside maybe, the hidden, where they do their arcane research, etc. Not to show off that they understand the arcane. They would keep that most probably sacred. The same with maybe libraries and stuff like everything that's of value to them. Part of their lore, part of their background would be hidden maybe in caves, etc. Yeah. And everything else, your normal market stalls, your military barracks, your normal housing, etc. I could see that being on the outside.
Let's look at this from a tactical point of view. Now, the Ashen Sanctum, that almost sounds like maybe they're going to reclaim some ruins or something that it wasn't originally theirs.
Maybe.
So maybe they're just going to barricade it. We could see finely architect ruins or fine architectural ruins with hints of the primitive ogre style, where they have the wooden spiked barricades and just big log doors and caves would make sense because ogres are tactical. Caves are very easy to defend. They're not concerned about retreating, so they don't care about having an exit. They don't care that it's a dead end. They just care that it's defendable, and they can funnel the enemy in. Yep. One-on-one, what's going to take on an ogre? In an ogre's mind, nothing.
Yep.
It's a matter of, as long as there's not 100 of them, I'm fine. So maybe we're going to see almost roughly dug tunnels in old ruins, or we're going to see maybe ruins with burnt out homes that have actually been dug out a little bit that have tunnels in them. It's going to be very, very interesting to see these. And this is probably one of the only races where I'm sitting there going, for the next screenshot of the environment, please give me something ogre. Oh my God.
Yes.
Just a hint. I don't care if it's like this big and it's up in a hill. Just give me something. So I just look at it and go, oh, ogres.
Yeah. So we've kind of touched on, what they, so we're based in agreement. Stone and wood would be their main source of material for, housing, etc. Leather, of course, as well. What about, racial clothing? As we see, obviously, there's leather, They have a lot of leather. They use bones for decoration and protection by the looks of it. So how would you see them?
Well, I'll take this from assuming that they can play every kind of race. Okay, just assume, or every kind of class. We'll just assume that and go by the different classes of armor. No matter what they're wearing, cloth, leather, chain, plate, I could see them having bone ornamentations, leather highlights. It would be very rough looking. It would probably be very dented, very scratched if it were a metal. Leather would be almost like a barbarian that you would see. So you'd see like maybe pants with a little loincloth, chest straps, maybe kind of vests. With cloth, you kind of wonder, would they? I don't think they would go for traditional robes because it's not practical in battle. While they say yes, they can be mages, you still have to approach it from the tactical point of view. These are tactical creatures. They're not going to wear a big flowy robe because that could give an enemy leverage. They could pull on that, pull them off balance, or it could get caught. So maybe they end up going with pants and a shirt that are cloth instead, but they'll still have leather highlights, maybe some bones stitched into for the front where you'd have those the wooden toggles that you see on some of the old stuff. Maybe that's how they do it. I mean, except with bone. It would be a very unique style, especially for cloth wearers.
Yeah. There's a discussion going on in chat about ogres and mounts. Now, let's just say anything's possible in Terminus. Where would you see the mounts for ogres? If we viewed it as being racial and kind of trying to actually make it kind of realistic compared to their size, their weight, etc., what kind of mounts would you see, if anything's possible, the ogres be on?
That's a tough question because how most games do it, regardless of the mount, what they do is they have like a scaling ratio for their character models. So obviously an ogre might be like 1.5 times standard, and that's how they scale it up. And then they do the same thing to the mount. This horse is 1.5 times a regular horse, so that it all scales proportional to the character. I don't agree with that at all, because I'd never seen a horse that could be the size of a minivan, you know? So maybe we get some kind of insect mount because the insects, or some kind of creature from their home planet, because they said insects grow the size of a halfling. While that's still pretty big, it's not big enough to mount an ogre. So maybe they'll use that as an excuse to make very, very, very large insects. Or, again, you've always got your standard fallback, very large animals, elephant, rhinos, mastodons. You could probably do something like a giant boar, you know, some kind of woodland creature that would come off as dumb and brutish, kind of like them, but it would still have to be practical in battle. They probably wouldn't do something like an ostrich-style two-legged bird, you know, because it just wouldn't make sense to them. You know, you can see that. I'm coming for you.
I mean, it's always kind of looked funny when you see an ogre on a horse. And I, to be honest, I don't want to see that. I can see them using horses as utilities to create farmland, etc., for them to grow food and whatnot, but only as a utility, not as a mount for them to go into battle. I could see them sitting on huge dire wolves, for instance.
More monstrous mounts than anything.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar. I can't remember who they were, so I don't remember the names. Really, really big guys. They were twins, and they used to ride these tiny little motorcycles. That's what I see when I see an ogre riding a horse. Just a super big guy riding this tiny little moped, like, you know, it's just, it's not immersive to me. To me, I'm like, you know, they'll ride by. I'm like, what the hell was that? That was dumb.
So, let's get into the class discussion for the ogre.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So before we go into that, on a scale of neutral, good, and bad, where do you see these guys?
I see these guys more on the bad end of neutral, because to me, evil says I seek out good and I try to snuff it out, where good means I seek evil and try to snuff it out. All the ogres are concerned with is fighting. They don't care who you are. If you're going to put up a good fight, let's do it. You know, if you don't put up a good fight, well, I'm just going to steamroll you anyway. So it's not that they care about how you are as a society or a person. It's a case of, you look like you'd be a good fight, so I'm attack you.
Mm. So based upon your choice of going towards neutral bad, which classes do you see the ogre being able to?
Well, warrior's obvious. Probably a dire lord. I can't really see a crusader because they're not so, well, again, we don't really know. If a crusader tends to be more warrior-ish than paladin-ish, then yeah, I could understand a crusader. I don't see rogues. They're big, lumbering, in-your-face kind of people. They're not sneaky. It's like an elephant trying to hide behind a blueberry bush. I'm not here! You know? Doesn't make sense to me. I could definitely see shamans. I mean, just that picture alone makes me just go, wow, that's a shaman. Because they can be mages, I'm thinking probably not a summoner, simply because an ogre would want to fight using his own ability. He wouldn't want to fight by proxy, summoning something to do the fighting for him. You know, that would almost be an insult to his honor. Mm. So I could see a wizard, because it's like, I defeated you, not this thing I pulled out of the ether. Let me bring out the classes real quick, because I know I'm forgetting some.
You got the monk, the enchanter.
Monk is iffy. Because to me, monk screams inner balance. But at the same time, they're all about fighting, so...
But... Let me bring it up. Real quick. It says... When calm, ogres are cautious and considerate before action.
Right. Like I said, I don't see monks. It might almost come off as a little ridiculous watching this gigantic ogre model do like a roundhouse. You know,
well, he doesn't necessarily have to do a kick. He could use...
It's almost like watching Shaquille O'Neal do ballet. You're just like, what? You know, really?
He could use a big stick and hit you on the head with it.
That is true. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say I could probably see a ranger. But there are a lot of things that would tend for me to say no. Mm. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, because rangers... I'm still a D&D ranger guy. You know, I can dual wield swords and fight just as well as I can use a bow.
Okay.
So they're a fighter class to me. Enchanter would be iffy, but I'd go ahead and say yeah, because of their mage background. Again, if enchanters turn out to be less of a pet type, but it's the whole charming and, you know, you're getting someone else to fight for you, and it just feels like it's not a very... It's like it's stealing yourself of your own glory, you know? Druid, no way. No way. Cleric, I could see it. I could definitely see it. Even if it's pushing the boundary a little bit.
Okay. I kind of view it differently. I would say cleric, no. And from the healing classes, I would pick the druid and the shaman, since they are a so-called primitive race, etc., and the use of primitive materials as such. I could see them also have a high knowledge of nature, herbs and stuff, how to heal themselves. So that's why I'm going with a druid. Shaman, is, you know, when you look at that race, you look at that image of the ogre, it shouts kind of shamanistic. So that's what I would pick as the healing classes. I'm in agreement with you on the wizard, and summoner, again, I can't see them doing that either. Enchanter, for me at the moment, I'd say no. But I would pick the necromancer as the pure evil mage class, you know, for the ogres. Monk, I'm kind of leaning towards monk rather than I would ranger. You know, using a big staff. They don't necessarily have to be agile and fast, because they are a brute, strong, sturdy force.
Right.
And because of the description of them being calm and using their wits before they go, you know, straight into battle, I could see them also having the monk discipline. Rogue, I totally agree. I can't see them playing a rogue. Hey, guess what? I'm behind you. Who is? Oh, look. Oh, it's a big ogre.
It's an ogre. How did I not see that?
Dire Lord. Yes. Because of necromancer and such. Warrior, definitely a given. Crusader, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm tending towards, if the Crusader's a neutral class and can be picked up by, you know, the more towards, leaning towards the bad classes, because it says she sets off to carry out her own righteous judgment. That's
right.
Typical. That's typical ogre behavior.
Well, yeah, I'm judging you through martial combat. I mean, I could see a Crusader, but it really relies on how the Crusader class ends up being shaped. Because right now we've got basically a block of clay here with a few little details, you know, and we're like,
yep.
Maybe.
So that's where, you know, I tend to go towards when it comes to classes. I'm going to see if chat. Do you want to bring up? So you got anything to bring up, Lex? Any idea while I go through chat and see what other people have had to say?
Well, just like the halflings, just like the gnomes, just like the everything. Every single race so far has had a very familiar feel, but a nice little twist to make you sit there and go, whoa, let me reread this. You know, let me get better acquainted with this race, because it's not what I think.
Right, so Fogser says Bruiser Brawler type thing. Dire Lord very likely. You can't see them as a Crusader. Selen says Ranger. Citro could actually see them as enchanters. They are combat strategists, so that obviously, you know, plays into it. Lilshi B Fighter or whatever, I'm sorry for slaughtering your name, says Warrior, Dire Lord, Shaman, Wizard is all he can see. Crusaders in general are good classes though, so there was a discussion basically. Glenn said never know, there might be evil crusades as much as good, which is also a possibility.
Which are basically Dire Lords, to be honest.
And, you know, Ogre Necro would also be cool, so those are some of the ideas from or thoughts on the classes from chat.
Yep. It seems like we're all pretty much on the same page. Like I said, I'm giving a few little, if they did this, I'd be okay as long as it's justified, like an enchanter. An EverQuest enchanter who focuses on his little pet and charms, no, I couldn't see an ogre doing that. But if you're just a tactician type without pets, and you still have your mez and all that stuff. Yeah, I could see that.
What about, racial traits for the ogres? Where could you
Oh,
see where could you see this coming into play?
are you talking maybe racial abilities or racial like statistics?
Abilities.
Abilities. Now, in EverQuest 1, they had a really neat ability for the large races. They could slam. And I'll take this from a warrior perspective. Warriors could kick or bash. Every warrior could. Both shared a cooldown. But the large ones, ogres and trolls, and I think barbarians and Vashir, they could slam. So they could do this with a dual wield. They could slam with a sword and shield. They could slam with a two-hander. And it made your life much better. Because with bash, you needed a shield. So you couldn't do it with a two-hander or dual wield. But you could kick. So you had to focus on two skills to make sure that no matter what you're wielding, you were still, pretty good. Whereas the large races just had to work on slam. I think that made a lot of sense because large races like an ogre would put their weight behind it and be better used to using their weight as a brute force. So slam, something of that nature, would make total sense to me. I could also see maybe almost like an enrage or a berserk, because they even say in the lore, when they're calm and collected, they're fine, but when you kind of get them emotionally off balance, they could go bonkers. So I could see them having a little bit of an not your stereotypical rage or enrage style, but maybe a little bit, where it boosts their strength or when they get low hit points or something like that.
Okay. What about racial stats?
Definitely strength and stamina or constitution. I forget what they're using.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see very low dexterity, very low agility. Intelligence is obviously going to be higher than I would expect, but it probably still wouldn't live up to like a gnome or an elf. People who are scholarly through their culture. But they would still have a respectable amount of intelligence. Charisma, no, none. Very, very, very like nil, because they're not worried about being polite and charming. Like, if an ogre is trying to sell you cars and be like, yeah, you need this. He's like, buy the car, I'll kill you. Kind of thing,
Yeah.
But that's just me.
How would you see, disregarding the classes for a moment, but where would you see them and the type of weapons that they would use? What would they be made out of? What kind of weapons would they generally prefer to use?
Well, because of their tactical and militant culture, I don't think they'd really care what their weapon is made out of. But if they had to make the weapon themselves, they would probably go for wood and stone or bone, things that are readily available, easy to make, and just reliable. I mean, if I had to take it down to a damage type, I would say blunt all the way. Even not even looking at the ogre in your stereotypical kind of way, what would be better, metaphorically and literally, to a noble or a valor-centric warrior than literally crushing your enemy? You're not just figuratively crushing him; you are crushing him.
There was a discussion in our Discord about weapons in general, and this is why I've kind of brought this up, because when I think about the discussion, they were talking about malices, with the ball and chain. That has never been done in an MMO as a weapon.
Yeah.
I would actually love to see some of the ogres, like a warrior, actually have this malice in his hand with the ball and chain, swinging that around his head. I can actually see them using that, You know, that's blunt force trauma
Yeah.
right there.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, those were never in MMOs because the animations are very weird to do. Because if you remember from EverQuest 1, they had whips, and the whips are basically triangles that you held on, and then when you did the attack animation, it went straight and then back to a triangle. It looked cheesy as hell, but you were still like, I have a whip. And that's the same problem you have with anything like that that has like dangly bits of physics. They either have to put the physics on that weapon, which has a whole bunch of technical implications from the background, which would still be cool, but then you got to be forgiving of clips like I'm running and the thing is like going through my head. You know, you give and take, people, give and take.
Yeah.
But I feel a special sense of excitement to be able to dual wield 2 of those as an ogre warrior.
Nunchucks.
Can you imagine just sitting there twirling them, be like, "Let's go, baby! I got your ticket right here."
So you got any other thoughts, or just chat? Have any other thoughts? Something that we can talk about? And while we give chat a few seconds to catch up with what I said, I'll bring in some other stuff. So as you guys know, whoops, wrong one. That one. We have a contest going from November 1st till November 9th, where we want you to make a joke about any of the Pantheon races, be it a meme or just a text, and send it to giveaway at pantheon-vot.com for a chance to win a Watchers Pledge. And there's a few examples on the screen right now of, you know, some of the jokes, a meme and 2 jokes, and I've actually, Sintro told us a joke earlier on in Discord chat and said we can use this for today's show, and we're going to bring it up right now. So, why did Rothok, the Black Moon King, take all the tombs? Lex, I'll give you...
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. Unless it has something to do with his library card.
Yeah, you're heading in the right direction. And the answer to this joke is he was the only ogre that could read. And that joke was brought to you by Sintro, so thanks for that. So I've got anything in chat? Nothing in chat yet. So we're going to announce what's going on next Thursday. Next Thursday we have the Rogue discussion. The last class of the 12 listed on the Pantheon site will be the Rogue on the 10th of November. So for all you Rogue fans out there, join us next Thursday.
Bring your A games.
Yep. You know, join our Discord and share your ideas and give us, you know, stuff to talk about. Alright, anything in chat for us to go and touch on? Have you thought of anything that we might have missed, Lex?
What kind of cosmetics do you think we'd be able to do with their models?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I could see a slight tinting of the skin tone.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what we discussed last time about the Darkmere. You know, they have that what is it, cream, brown, greyish tone. So kind of in that segment, basically. I could see hairstyles, you know, a mohawk, for instance, or, you know, a long ponytail at the back, stuff like that. I could also see the teeth, maybe as the mouth, the teeth have different kind of tusks, for instance, something like that. Obviously, the maybe different kinds of ears, with some of them, you know, where they have a piece bitten out, or, you know, an ear flopping or something like that.
Floppy-eared ogre.
Floppy
I'd love
ear.
it. Oh, I'd love it.
Yeah, so kind of, you know, it would be very limited, basically. Body-wise, maybe you could have like a general mass, or, you know, have the torso looking more brute, triangle, more in shape. But it's, you know, that's where I see the ogre being very... it's hard to scale him in size.
Right.
I wouldn't want to have him, go from short to tall. They should be in a area where you have a little bit of scaling, but not too much. So it's the mouth, the eyes, the nose, obviously, different kinds of noses, different kinds of hairstyles,
Yeah.
maybe scarring, tattoos.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah,
you?
I'm pretty much on the same page here. I think like for hairdos, we're gonna see like maybe a short ponytail or a braid or just low cut practical hairstyles. I don't think we're gonna see anything too wild, like big old dreadlocks. Because as a guy that used to get into a lot of fights as a teen, let me tell you, long hair sucks. Trust me on that. I think we're going to see different tints of skin, but nothing so wild as to say green or red. This is very slight, maybe in the browns, more earthy tones. Height is probably going to be very limited. It might be a variance of between maybe a foot or so, because they're massive creatures. End of story. I mean, your smallest ogre should still be a very large, imposing figure. Because as a fighting class, they're going to value, being big and intimidating over being small. And yes,
Beards.
yes,
I could definitely see different kinds of beards with bones in between them, and maybe tusks going in between them as well.
yep.
Yep. So
I could see them with beards, maybe not like dwarf beards going down to their chest, but maybe a respectable couple inches here, and they can braid it, put bones in it or something. For tattoos or scarring, I would like to see them go. Well, for scarring in the facial area, obvious battle scars over the eyes, the usual, just make them look nasty and healed, maybe a little gnarled, because they'll take that as a badge of honor. They might do a ritualistic scarring on the arms or chest that actually marks the number of kills that they've gotten or something of that effect. Same thing with tattoos. They're going to represent something. It's not just going to be, oh, it looks cool, let's do it. It needs to have meaning. So they might have their clan symbol. They might have maybe even something akin to the warrior symbol or something like that. Or just tally marks of how many people they've killed, in terms of accessories, definitely going to see bone. Nothing too crazy on the metal side, maybe studs. You might even see some like dermal studs where they got like the, under the skin. Maybe a little bit of that. Through the nose, I could see definitely like maybe a little bit of ornamentation through their tusks. All really depends, because that's a little Warcraftish for me, but where, you see some of the orcs with the metal ring through their tusk. But I could see multiple types of tusks, multiple types of noses, obviously some head shaping, but nothing too crazy.
yeah.
Pretty standard stuff, but I think it's, in the grand scheme of things, these guys should be pretty narrow in their appearance, because an ogre is going to be an ogre, going to be an ogre. And they have to just scream practicality in battle.
Yep.
Another one that came up was about racial crafting.
I can
Could
definitely
we see them getting a bonus?
I could see that for, certain areas of crafting.
Yeah.
Like I talked on earlier on, with them having a greater knowledge to all the plants and herbs and this, that, and the other around there. I can actually see them having a higher knowledge, and this is going to most probably sound crazy, but alchemy.
Maybe.
It scream, the ogres scream alchemy for me. When I think about an ogre, I think of a high shaman.
Right.
Being
doing his little potions.
Doing his little potions and stuff like that. Woodworking, they're very good with wood. They're very good with stone. That's where I definitely see them. If they had bonuses, it would be towards, blunt weaponry, stuff like that is where I kind of see it. Weapon
Right.
crafting, like already said, Frogzor, in weapons, but only to specific types, not to all types.
Right.
They wouldn't be, I can't see them having a bonus in all weaponry, with slashing weapons, for instance, or piercing. It doesn't fit the ogre. They are a blunt force. That's
Right.
where they would get their bonus for crafting blunt weaponry, blunt weapons, stuff like that. Woodworking, they're very good with wood. Um, so yeah, that's why I kind of put them. But alchemy would
Yep.
be where I would like, or where I think they'd have a very high impact.
Yeah. I'm still kind of stuck in the Stone Ages here, but um, because they're a tactical race, they're gonna value weapons, maybe not armor so much. So I could definitely see a blacksmithing or an armor smithing bonus. I'm gonna say no to woodwork and masonry style things simply because while building fortifications is a part of having a good tactical mind, the ogre to me just screams attack. So I could see them favoring weapons. Alchemy, like I said, I'm stuck in the Stone Ages. That to me just screams a shaman. But I've been wrong before, so without having any idea on any of the crafting, it's even hard to say if anyone's going to get any kind of bonus, maybe. But for me, I think weapons would be a pretty safe bet. I know we've hit the crafting topic a couple times here, and I still love the idea of racial crafting being cosmetic, like changing someone's greatsword into looking like from this race. And if we stay on that spectrum, I could definitely see these guys having a lot of blunt weapons alterations. So you could, like, I don't know, I think he's carrying a crazy club or something in that picture.
Yeah,
but
looks
yeah.
almost
So
like
maybe
that.
you can take a mace and make it look like a big boneheaded mace that would just be cool as crap. I mean, even if I end up playing my Scar Dire Lord, because like I said, we kind of gotta hold everything here with a grain of salt. I could definitely see myself seeking out an ogre crafter just so I can get that cool bone primitive look on my stuff.
I mean, imagine a bone shield, a shield crafted out of bone.
I would love it. I would literally lose my mind to get one.
Yep.
If they do add if they do kind of go wild on the crafting, I would love to see bone crafting, like we're seeing in chat. I would love that. Being able to make weapons and even maybe some armor. It's almost like blacksmithing, only you just have to use a different type of material that could possibly give different style of stats. I mean, I love that idea because as long as I can get equivalent stats to plate armor as a tank, I'll wear it. And I will wear it even if it's slightly less than plate because sure, min-maxing will kind of itch in the back of my brain going, you could have 5 more AC or you could do 2 more damage, but I'm still going to lean back and go, yeah, but I look cool as hell.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's going to be interesting to finally find out where VR are going with the crafting and in what directions they're going to go. Will there be racial crafting? What crafting traits will there be?
Yeah. I think once they drop any information at all on crafting, we all are just going to go buck wild. I mean, bring a sleeping bag and some Doritos because it's going to be a while.
Yep. Anything else, Lex? Do you have anything else? Because I'm running a blank right now, to be honest.
I am. as well. But with everything we have to consider with the ogres, I can definitely see them favoring tank or melee style characters, because tanking is a love or a passion of mine. I'm going to be very hard pressed between Ogre and Scar, because while I love tanking, I love the offensive tanks. So it's going to be a real tough call to me, and I think any other tank out there, especially if they're of the offensive style of tanking, is in the same boat I am. We basically got Ogre in one hand, we got a Scar in the other, and they're going, just give me a reason to go one way or the other. You know, just something so I know where I'm going.
Yeah. So I've put it out in chat to see if they got anything that we might have not covered, we might have forgot about, that might be interesting to talk about. So I'm definitely running a blank today.
Yeah, I mean, even though the ogres do have a nice twist with their lore, and we do have that nice added little bonus of, hey, these guys can be mages.
Yeah.
Or just magic wielders in general.
I mean, that's...
You still think big and bad, so you think the guy who's going to be up front punching people in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, are we stuck in the Stone Ages? Yeah, kinda. But if you're big and you're muscular, you're not gonna be known for being the world's best knitter. You know, you're gonna be known for being a big bad brute. It's just the way of the world, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Just because we, have known our ogres to be how they've been now for the last X amount of years, just try and open up to new ideas, possibilities. Why do these guys have to be seen as brute stumps that are just a force of power, and that is it? I mean, this ogre shouts intelligence to me just by looking at him. He looks smart.
He doesn't have that slack jawed look like,
yep.
I'm gonna hit you.
Yep.
The look, I mean, and this is credit to the artist as well, that he screams, I'm sizing you up.
Yep.
So that if we fight, I'm gonna win. Which, it still is a nice little twist. And I know I've said that a dozen frickin' times, but it's just so true it isn't funny. Because it's been the same with every race so far. You get a nice little twist. Not so much that you're like, that don't make any sense. Like, you wouldn't see ogres being the premier magic users. But there's nothing saying that they can't be good magic users here. I mean, if we see ogre wizards, I don't know. I think I might even consider one, simply because it's so different that it will throw my entire experience on its head. And maybe that's what an old timer like me needs. I need something that's completely different to what I expect.
Mm-hmm. So I think we've covered it for now until we do know more, like Dark Souls already said, what we can speculate on. And again, let me bring up the disclaimer, because we haven't brought that up yet. We're just like everybody else, fans for the game. We're part of the community, here to help entertain you guys while we all wait on Pantheon to come out. We're not paid by VR to do our show. We're not associated with them in any means. We just support them just like you guys, want to entertain you, help pass the time, speculate on ideas, help the devs maybe pick up on some of the cool ideas that are out there, and maybe nudge them in a direction that they might not have thought of for whatever reason, and to just have fun as well. We are here to have fun with you guys, talk about all the stuff that's already out there, and that's our disclaimer, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the game's quite a ways away, and we all know because we're exactly like you guys. You know, we're dying for information. The minute that there's anything on Twitter or anything, I run to my computer, I boot that sucker up, and I'm reading. You know, but the whole point of this show is to kind of just have an outlet for speculations, for discussion. We're not saying we're right. We're not saying we're wrong. We're just saying, hey, what if, you know? It's just something to think about. Are a lot of, well, personally, are my ideas stuck in the Stone Age? Yeah. I'm still stuck in my glory days of EverQuest 1, even though I've played every major MMO to date. But the thing is, your first MMO that gives you that in-depth experience of I'm in a world, I'm so engrossed and immersed in this, it's ridiculous. You know, that feeling was so intoxicating. And we're all really hoping that we're going to get something similar to Pantheon. Not saying we're going to get exactly that, because nothing ever, it's just like your very first love, you know, nothing ever compares to it, but you can still find something that's just as good. And here we can all come together and just enjoy what we have so far and just see where the journey takes us all.
Nice. Sweet. So, I guess we can call it a wrap for today. Next Tuesday is Tavern Talk. We'll gather all the news that comes out from, you know, since last Tuesday after our show until Tuesday before our show, to bring you all the latest news regarding VR and Pantheon. Hopefully, the newsletter will be out by then. You know, with any luck, the new newsletter for November will be fresh off the press, that we can cover that as well. And then on Thursday, like you've already seen, we're doing a Rogue, so join us for the Rogue discussion. Obviously, it's already kind of been released, the basic information about him, but we're still going to cover him. So there's going to be a little less speculation than usual, and hopefully Kodiak will be back.
Yeah, he's on the street corner making me my money.
Yeah, could you hear that, Kodiak?
I need to get my big feathered hat.
So, with that, guys, I guess it's a good night. Sorry we didn't have all the greatest ideas like we normally do. Obviously, Kodiak's definitely missing to bring in some fresh thoughts. It's very hard to do when it's only me and Lex bouncing or trying to bounce ideas off each other.
Yep.
So we'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, rest of the week and whatnot. And we'll see you guys on Tuesday.
And thanks for coming.